Welcome back. In this video, we continue to unpack what inclusive education is all about. Learning Outcome 6. Analyze the policy for inclusive education put forward in the Education White Paper 6. What is the Education White Paper 6? Special Needs Education, Building an Inclusive Education and Training System. Before we can understand where the White Paper 6 fits into inclusive education in South Africa, you must ensure you understand the history of education in South Africa. You can use the table on page 10 and 11 of your module reader to recap some of the most significant South African and African policies in chronological order. The table also provides a brief summary of some of the ways their mandate informs inclusive education. You can also go back to the video on the history of exclusion in South African education. But let's take a look at the White Paper 6. The Education White Paper 6, Special Needs Education, is a policy document published by the Department of Education South Africa in 2001. It is the key policy document for inclusive education in South Africa and outlines an inclusionary education system in which all learners have equal access to quality education opportunities in our country. The principles of the Education White Paper 6 are framed by the Constitution of South Africa, Bill of Rights, and the South African Schools Act of 1996. They are based in human rights and social justice and advocate for equal access for all in schools in South Africa. The Education White Paper 6 essentially provides a framework. It is the framework and the planning for the implementation of an inclusionary system in South African education. It describes the implementation process to be rolled out in our country since 2001. It also prescribes the levels of support in South Africa's framework for education, starting with the National Education Department, the roles and responsibilities of the Provincial Education Department, the district-based support team and the key functions that they will play in ensuring that the schools within each district are rolling out inclusive education in line with the policy. It further explains the roles of our school-based support teams. Within each school, a school-based support team should be ensuring inclusive policy within the school. And finally, it moves down to the principals, teachers, parents, and communities, and their roles in the implementation of inclusive education in our country. Let's take a look at the purpose of the Education White Paper 6. Firstly, it describes the implementation process of inclusive education in our country. It describes the types of schools that will exist, from special schools to full-service schools and ordinary schools. We will have a look at each type of school in later learning units. It allocates the budgets for the successful rollout of inclusive education in our country, and it sets out the short and long-term goals for the implementation. Furthermore, it provides the functions and purposes of some of our key role players in the implementation of inclusive education in South Africa. For example, the government's role, the provincial department's role, the role of the school-based support team and district-based support team, and the role of the teacher in the classroom. In summary, the Education White Paper 6 is the key policy document for inclusive education in South Africa.